Welcome, everyone. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and I'm super excited to be here with you for this 90-minute program. It's called Developing Your Photographer's Eye, Heighten Your Perception so you can recognize and take better photos. This online event is with world-renowned photographer Carl Studna. As I mentioned, this is a 90-minute program with a 30-minute live Q&A at the end, so be sure to make note of any questions that you have. This program is part of our special webinar series called The Art and Soul of Taking Better Photographs with Your Phone. Learn how to develop your photographer's eye and use inner and outer light. How cool is that to improve the pictures you take? Thanks so much for joining us. We've got a really powerful program in store for you. As we get started, I'm going to give Carl a proper introduction. Carl Studna is a world-renowned photographer and videographer, inspirational speaker, teacher, and multi-award-winning author of the book called Click, Choosing Love, One Frame at a Time, and The Evolution of Loving. Over the past 30 years, Carl has been assigned all over the world to shoot CD and album covers, book covers, and other publicity platforms for musicians, teachers, authors, such as Paul McCartney, George Harrison, James Brown, Jefferson Airplane, Eric Clapton, Elton John. This goes on, by the way, here. Genesis, Kenny Loggins, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, Tom Robbins, Ram Dass, Marianne Williamson, and John Bradshaw. And notice, I didn't even bring in Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys there. So we're leaving a lot of people out that Carl has photographed. And his work has appeared in many prominent magazines, including Rolling Stone, Musician, Time, and USA Today. Carl received his Bachelor of Arts degree in Expressive Arts from Sonoma State University and his master's degree in Spiritual Psychology from the University of Santa Monica, and is also a member of the esteemed Transformational Leadership Council, a group of leaders and of personal and organizational transformation who support one another in their contributions to the world. And welcome, Carl, to the program.
Oh, Steve, it's so great to be with you. I love being here.
Oh, man, me too. We're going to just have such a blast. We already are.
Yes.
So, and before we dive in with Carl, I just want to let everybody know that near the end of this program, we're going to tell you about a brand new 6-week master's program that we've been working on for about a year. It will teach you about smartphone photography that has become the leading art form in the world. Yes, I said leading art form in the world. With a little training and guidance from master photographer Carl Studna, you'll not only be able to take professional-looking photos with your phone, you'll also get more in touch with what Carl calls your signature essence. More on this in a little bit. Now, let's jump right in with Carl to get to these exciting topics that we've planned for you during the hour. So, Carl, let me just throw the first question at you. So, and I'm just curious, and we've had a chance to talk about so many things, but what was it like to do photo shoots with members of the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Elton John, the Dalai Lama, and just to name a few?
Well, for me, Steve, it all started with inspiration, really. I was led by inspiration, and I believe that's sort of a common theme of mine throughout my life, is when I open and trust what's inspiring me, and I follow that, and I stay true to that, then the doors open. And I bring passion to it, and I do the work to open the doors, obviously. So that was the truth with all these people that I photographed. The Beatles, naturally, I mean, it would just be the surviving Beatles now, primarily McCartney and George Harrison when he was alive. They were inspiring me so much to connect with them, because they had such a contribution to me on my life as I was growing up. They brought light and playfulness and joy, and their music lifted my spirits at times when I felt like I needed that. So inspiration just drew me so strongly to connect with them. So, you know, through different means with both of them, in the same year, I spent 2 days with McCartney at Skywalker Ranch when he was shooting a video, and I was taking him aside and doing these beautiful stills of him and connecting with him personally and all of his family that was there. And the same with Harrison, where I heard that he was going to be doing the first concert in 17 years in Japan. So I was working with Warner Brother Records and just put my inspired vision out there and planted the seeds. And there I was for 2 weeks covering his tours in Japan. And both of those experiences, I had connected time with each of these individuals, and they just fed me so deeply, especially in certain ways, George Harrison, because he was a key figure for me in opening me up more fully to meditation and to spirituality.
Wow, amazing. So in a way, one of the things that we talk about in humanities team all the time is this whole aspect of aligning with the divine, our lives, aligning with the divine. And when you share inspiration, that's how it feels to me, that you're opening yourself, and bam, you're just walked into this destiny, in your case, becoming this incredible world-renowned photographer that you become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I apply that teaching with my work, with my photography. When I'm photographing people, when I'm coaching people in opening up to the camera and opening their inner eye, it's really opening to what inspires them. And when we do that, then everything starts becoming more alive, and we just start seeing things in a broader way.
Right, I've experienced that with you. Yeah, you've got you're in, I'll call it flow, where you're just not in your head at all. You're just opened up, it feels like, to the cosmos, and you've got, your right hand is doing something with the blinds to do something with lighting, and then your ear is kind of feeling into the place that we want to be. You've got a lot of things going on that are sort of steering the ship here, huh?
Yeah, it's an interesting process with doing photo shoots with people, because you really do have to access both your right and left brain. And my right side of my brain, I got no problem with. It's like, it's open, it's seeing, feeling, it's tapping into feeling, into form, into light. The left brain I had to work on to integrate that, so that when shooting, obviously I'm talking about with a DSLR camera, not the smartphone, there are a lot of technical things that you have to think about. And as far as lighting, composition, there's so many different things that you keep your attention on. And so it's, as you're saying, it's a synergy of accessing both sides of the brain and being able to have it all come together in a way where everything just feels like a perfect fit.
So Carl, how do you create photographic compositions that draw the viewer in?
Well, personally, I'm really drawn to symmetry. And I believe that, this is just totally my belief, I believe that in human nature, we're drawn to symmetry. So I just see things in terms of a balance. And there are certain technical tools and rules with photography that people use. And one of them is a technical one that's a common one that's always taught, is seeing things in terms of thirds. So vertically, three portions of the frame, and same with horizontal. And when you balance those thirds out, then it creates a pleasing composition to the eye. So that's your answer on more of a technical note, as far as balance and composition and symmetry. For me, it's also about intuiting into the picture and it's like having it guide me. And this is getting a lot more esoteric, but it's really like listening to how the shot or the frame wishes to be composed, wishes to be seen. And that's something that I go into with the series. But it's really about, for me, what I said in the first place is finding that pleasing composition that just makes you feel good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And there's obviously so much involved here. So, we're going to just keep going down here, viewers, into more and more depth around this art form, because it's just incredible. And as you know, we were sharing here at the beginning, this is the leading art form here. As we know, most of us have taken our Canons and other cameras, which are incredible cameras, and we've got them in the back of our closet somewhere. And increasingly, it's our smartphone that's capturing the moment. So we're gonna talk here now about selfies. So where we can learn to really use that smartphone as an artistic device, and we're the artist, of course, holding it, with where all of this magic is happening that Carl's talking about. It captures these magical moments, and we can share them with friends on social media, as we have before. We can even print these things out, frame them, etc. So, but such an important topic, because as we know, smartphone photography is getting increasing importance and visibility and even priority in our lives. Okay, so Carl, so going to selfies. So selfies are popular these days. Any suggestions for how people can create alluring selfies for social media?
Wow. Well, yeah, selfies are the rage right now. You know, it's very interesting, because when my first book, Click, came out, right at that time, selfies really weren't, even the term was sort of new, and that was only 7 years ago. So you think about the explosion of that term and how people are doing on the Academy Awards. I mean, everywhere, you know, people are doing selfies, and certainly with social media a lot. And so I have some tips about selfies. One of them is more of a tip in how to center ourselves so that we can take a more authentic selfie, because quite often when we're having our picture taken, or even taking pictures of ourselves, we need to breathe. You know? Take a moment and breathe. Or just sort of a reset. You know, there are many different techniques. Some acting techniques are good, like you know, blah, 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 you know, just to let your mouth relax and everything. And it's kind of like a reset right before you take the picture, because we want who you are to come through. I mean, that's, to me, that's what my work and my craft and my message is all about, is having our essence come through. So rather than having it look stiff or tight, which is what happens when we don't feel relaxed, when we feel self-conscious, our mouth gets tight, our eyes get glazed, you know. So we want to get to a place where we have those soft eyes, and our mouth is a natural smile. So you might think about something that really brings you joy, you know, and then kind of reset, and then just take that essential moment of the click right then. So that's the one tip on authenticity. As far as a technique for having it look more flattering, I know people don't like to carry selfie sticks with them, but with all smartphone cameras, they're a little wide angle. The lens is a little wide angle, meaning it's curved a little bit. And with a lens, the closer the optics of a lens, the closer that you put a camera to your face, the more that it's going to distort whatever is closest to the lens. So your nose is going to get bigger, you know, your chin's going to get bigger if you're out here like this, you know, and it's not flattering. So that's why you see a lot of selfies that look sort of distorted. So the more that you can get the camera back, you know, like get it as far back as you can. And ideally, if you can get it far enough back, and I go over this in the series too, and then just zoom in just a teeny bit with the lens, then that also creates less distortion. And that will give a more flattering look when you're taking the selfie.
All right, well, big mental note here. I'm going to get myself a selfie stick. I'm not sure yet what kind I'm going to get, but that's the kind of thing, as you mentioned, you get into in the series. So, but interesting. Yeah, get that camera away from the face, unless we want to have a bigger chin and nose and etc. Okay, great. Now, what about opening your field of vision so you can better see the perfect moment for photographs as they arise around you? How do you do this?
Well, I talk about in our brain, there's a mechanism called the reticular activating system. And what that means is that whatever you put your focus on is what you start to see, which is kind of deep, because it's sort of a metaphor for life in general, our thoughts and everything. But I won't go there right now. So, but in terms of taking pictures, so let's say, as another example, you buy a new car, like a new Honda Civic, and all of a sudden you start seeing a ton of them on the road. That's your reticular activating system kicking in. You're noticing what's important to you. So the same applies with photographing, where the more that we are able to train our eye to start seeing things around us in a way that really gives more importance to what we're seeing, more value. I like to talk about it as seeing the sacred. So the more that we can look at, whether it can be beauty in nature, it can be the composition of a landscape, the composition of a cityscape in a city, the more that we can start to train our eye and see these compositions in a way that just turn us on. It's like, wow, getting that spark going. Then we're going to be, number one, feel more inspired. We're going to start training ourselves more to find interesting compositions that really are interesting and look great. And then we'll be more excited about how we share them too. And the other aspect to that is the lighting. Lighting is a huge component that I get into later in the series, that really, really, I can't stress lighting enough. Lighting will make a picture go from ordinary to extraordinary. And I'm sure all of you know what I mean when you see a shot that's just lit in a absolutely stunning way and you go, wow. So paying attention to the subtleties of light, how light can come through the darkness and just shine. Like an example, like say you're walking in the early morning, if I'm walking on my road and the sun is just coming up and it's got these long shadows and it's really warm and everything is in shade except for the sun just casting like it's a ray onto a few leaves or a branch. And so being aware of that, where the light just pops out and stands out, and then zooming in, going in and finding the composition that really pleases you and putting your attention there.
Something comes to mind here, Carl, as we're talking, which is, of course, we're a conscious audience here in Humanities Team and with all of our partners. And so this whole discussion of the shift, this awakening, this transformation, this ascension, is quite common. Mm-hmm. And what's occurring to me as we're sitting here talking is, it's almost, to me, it's like taking photography from the 3D world to the 5D world, where we're in ascension. And let me share what I mean by that, because I'd love your thoughts here.
Yeah, you're talking my language, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Because there's a master photographer that she's called here in the Boulder area. My family spent time with her, and she does a wonderful job of getting you to smile. But then we've spent, of course, a good amount of time together, and you're just in a whole, in this sort of 5D realm where you're not just trying to get somebody to smile in a plastic way. You've got all of these other things going on that are conscious considerations that involve illumination and so much more. So it's almost like with photography, we're in the fullness of the shift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I see photography as an opportunity to really expand our awareness and our consciousness in the way you're talking about. I mean, it really has the opportunity to awaken our greater dimensions of what we feel and what we see and how we experience the light around us, both the inner and the outer light around us, so that it really can be a meditation. And when I say meditation, I mean truly a way of awakening us and centering us and inspiring us with perhaps things that we might be around all the time that we might think are ordinary, and then start placing more attention on those, infusing through our consciousness and our attention, infusing a greater sense of seeing and revealing the light around us in various ways. And when we do that, the more that we train ourselves and awaken our inner senses in that way, then everything around us starts to become more multidimensional and more alive and more awakened, and we appreciate things around us more.
Yes. And I want to share, this is something new and different for Humanities Team. We've never done anything on conscious photography. And the reason that we're bringing this in, one is this is a really incredible opportunity where we're with somebody like Carl, who charges $2,000 to his clients for a half day and $4,000 for a full day to do photography. But where the photography is not in the old world, in the 3D old world of just getting a nice smile, but rather the photography is bringing in all of these realms of consciousness that that Carl's talking about, because as you know, the mission of Humanities Team is a full-on planetary awakening in this generation. And we see this as a method of achieving that full-on planetary awakening, but in a really fun way, powerful way, of course, but also in a really fun way.
And such a practical way, because as you're saying, so many people are taking pictures with their phones now. I just heard a statistic the other day that about 3.2 billion people on the planet now have smartphones. 3.2 billion. So that means 3.2 billion people have phones. And of those 3.2 billion, think about how many are photographing now. So the opportunity, just the arc, if we were to look at a graph, I haven't seen one, but if we were to look at a graph of the marketing value of photography and people taking pictures, it probably, in the last 10 years, it probably would have been going like this, and then the last 3 or 4, like just straight up. So it's something that has caught on, and it's a creative medium that anyone can access now, almost, or at least half the people on the planet almost, can access and use it in a creative way. And as you were saying, as far as taking photographs of people, I never get tired of that. I started photographing, doing portraits, probably near the beginning of my career, like 40 years ago. And I never would have imagined that I would focus and have my specialty be on portraits initially, because I was pretty shy and introverted when I was younger. But it just became my path, because the more I worked with different people, I was seeing the uniqueness and the brilliance and the message of each individual person. And the more that I was growing within myself and growing my consciousness, I become more attuned to seeing and honoring and recognizing that uniqueness in each person that sat before me. So that has continued to grow throughout my career. As I grow within myself and my understanding expands into other dimensions, I'm seeing greater facets and greater dimensions of the people that are with me, and honoring them in a way that really allows each person to tap in more, feel their beauty, their sacredness, their message, their truth, their wisdom, their purpose, their uniqueness. And then with the tools that I also use, letting them keep coming back to that let go place, so that you not only see it in the pictures, but you feel it. You feel part of my objective, and I don't even think it's my objective. I think it's part of my mission and purpose, is to be a conduit for reflecting back to people their greater dimensions of their beauty and their magnificence in this medium, this still medium of photography, and then having it transmit, as you were alluding to before, having it transmit through the pictures, so that when people look at them, they feel more than just a person or a landscape or whatever. They're feeling a greater dimensionality.
Wow, so that is really cool, and you're bringing in things in your personal story, Carl. Even though I know you pretty well, I didn't know that you were shyer when you were young, and I'm glad you're bringing that in, because I suspect that we're also talking to many viewers that there are more introverts in the world than there are extroverts, and we're all actually working to punch through certain levels of shyness. So isn't that cool that as part of this whole exercise in conscious photography, we're actually extending ourselves out, taking steps out further to self-realize, to become a fuller person, that instead of standing back, where it's felt safe, right, as part of what we're doing here with conscious photography. So that's a pretty cool thing to bring in.
And one more thing about that, and with social media now, I mean, there's ups and downs to everything, and we know the dangers of social media. I mean, there's such an arc to the concerns. But I want to emphasize some of the positive and opportunities of social media, because we've shifted also in our world in the last 10 years from pretty much being fairly private individuals to now many people being quite public in a certain way. So in doing so, this is so deep. In this shift, who we are, we're always thinking, whether it's conscious or not, whenever we're posting anything, there's a part of us that's thinking, how do I want to show up? How do I want to be represented in the world, right? Whether it's conscious or not. So the photographs of you, the photographs that you take, where you place your attention in that way is a strong mirror of really what you're about, what your purpose really is, where your consciousness is. And so it's an opportunity greater than ever before to use photography in the best of ways to represent the highest of who you are through your pictures.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. Beautiful, Carl. Yeah, thank you. And certainly most of us are spending a lot more time on social media, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And having these magical photographs that capture moments make it a really an extraordinary thing to bring to our social media experience. So, okay, so how can we bring our personal passion and mission into our way of seeing and photographing the world?
That's a great question. So, yeah, because some people might be clear about their passion and their mission, and some people might not. And as you're asking me this question, I'm sort of thinking it's sort of like the chicken and the egg, that we can use photography as a way to discover more about what we're drawn to and what qualities and feelings that we feel the most aligned to and that we want to represent in the world. So that can come forth more clearly and strongly through actually the use of taking pictures. But also, all of us, I'm sure, that are watching this are in some form or another on the path of self-development. So everybody, I would assume, that's watching this is interested in being clear about what inspires you, what your mission is, what your purpose is, your uniqueness of your wisdom. So the greater that we can access that through contemplation, through meditation, through times in nature, having that be just something that we carry with us as a question all the time that allows, and again, it comes for me back to what inspires me. Because when I'm open at the top to what inspires me, then the forms show up, the messages show up. So all of that to say that we can use our smartphones, our cameras, to every time we take it out, to open up more clearly to what is it that I wish to convey? What message has meaning for me in this moment? What meaning has purpose? What meaning do I wish to share with the world to make some kind of contribution? And it doesn't have to be deep all the time. I mean, sometimes I'll post silly shots because I like to be silly at times, and I like to post joyous, funny, quirky pictures because I think that's a contribution in itself as well. So for me, if I were to list some of the qualities that I am devoted to embodying and sharing in my life and in my pictures, it would be joy, playfulness, sacred, evoking a sense of awe, preciousness, tenderness, and the list goes on. So each of you can really take a look at that for yourself and see what are those 5 to 10 deep, basic qualities that have the deepest of meaning for you, and then infuse those into the pictures that you take.
Wow. So you're bringing in, we're gonna go deeper into this in a little bit, but I just want to stop on this because it's such an important point. You're talking about, Carl, with the intention that you're bringing. As you picking up a camera, you're very intentional. You're not just picking it up and just sort of looking around. You're picking it up with intention. And I want to bring in a personal story you shared with me relating to this. It was very powerful, where you were talking about your photo shoot with Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and how generally your intention is kind of to take your photography in a certain direction, but you took it in quite a different direction as you were intentional in that moment. And can you talk a little just generally about being intentional, and then maybe if you want to share anything about that photo shoot with Brian Wilson?
Yeah, I'll lead with that. I'll start with that because it's such a meaningful story for me. So this was in probably 89 or so. And I had the opportunity to take pictures of Brian Wilson for the Songwriters magazine. And I go to the office of his psychiatrist, his manager, basically the man that was running his life at the time and controlling his life in unhealthy ways. So he was pretty much confined to this office and to the care of Eugene Landy. And I knew that beforehand. And I knew Brian's history and the challenges that he had earlier with drugs. So I walked in with a greater awareness and sensitivity. And I probably shared maybe half hour with him at most. And he was very quiet, and he sat down, and I'd be asking him to turn different ways and look. And typically, as you were saying, typically when I'm doing shoots, I like to evoke a certain presence that shows a peacefulness or a joy or an authenticity. I like to evoke the light, okay? With him, I was clear that my focus was needing to be different, to be authentic. It needed to be different because he was not in a place of light. I wanted to bring out the preciousness of who he was. And he would be at times just zoning out. There'd be moments, I think he was over-medicated was part of the problem at the time. And he would just be, like that for 20, 30 seconds. And I'd be patient, and I'd wait till he came back. And then I'd be very kind and considerate with him. And I'd take more pictures. And that went on until we were finished. And then as he's walking out, he turned around and looked at me, paused, and just said, "Thank you very much." And I knew what he meant. He meant, thank you for seeing me, for being sensitive, and for honoring, where I'm at. And that was such a precious moment for me in recognizing the uniqueness of each person and honoring where we are at, wherever we're at. And the shot that I have hanging in my studio, it's a huge picture that I've displayed, is not my typical shot of somebody, because he looks more troubled, but it's real. You look in his eyes and everything about it is really showing and reading the truth of really the difficulty and sort of the torment that he was at that point. So that was an unusual shot in that case. And so review with me for a quick moment, Steve, because I got so into this story, the question that you had here.
Yeah, and I was just also addressing just intention more broadly, which we're going to talk about here soon. So it could be something brief, but just the aspect of which is part of in conscious photography, you've emphasized that intention has a substantial role.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and so going into photographing with an intention, like what is our intention? Which really goes back, part of it goes back to what we were just talking about a moment before. My intention is to be authentic with whatever is present. And my intention is to see the preciousness, okay? Preciousness of the human condition, preciousness in people, the preciousness of a beautiful landscape. I don't focus a lot on shots that are showing, like, I'm not drawn to going and documenting strife and violence that's going on, in the cities or at different places around the world. Not to say that it doesn't need to be, because there are certain people that are called to that because that's their mission, and so perhaps their focus is on bringing out injustice, right? And that's a large part of their intention. So that's not mine. And I'm clear of that. So I wouldn't be drawn to that. So it gives us the opportunity to really get clear on, deepening in what our intention is in taking pictures. And again, that comes back to our values and what we wish to contribute.
Yeah. Thank you, Carl. Let me now go in just a slightly different direction. Can you suggest ways that we can become more attuned to exceptional lighting conditions and angles when we're doing conscious photography?
Yes, subtleties of light. There are becoming more attuned to lighting. You can even look at photographs. I would suggest going online or buying some books of Ansel Adams. number one, go study Ansel Adams' landscape photographs. They're all black and white, and his emphasis is on lighting, on tonality, and composition. And the tonality is so important in his shots, the blending, the fusing of the shadows and the light. I studied him when I was first learning photography, and his pictures really served for me as a way to really train my eye to become more attuned to how it's going to translate, what you're looking at through your lens. How is that going to translate on the camera, in the frame, on the sensor? Okay, so a lot of how it's going to translate has to do with light. So we become more aware of lighting conditions that just aren't going to look good. I mean, if you've got heavy shadowing going on like say the foreground of a meadow, and the background is bright, lit trees, that means that the foreground, or even model light in the foreground from all these trees, it's just what happens with the sensor of a camera, whether it's your smartphone or the most professional camera, is that the darks become a lot darker, the lights become lighter, and you've got this heavy contrast going on. And so the more that you shoot and then you look at them, you can start to see how it's going to translate on the camera, and start training your eye to see lighting conditions that go from ordinary to extraordinary. And again, that really just takes a type of training and trial and error. I tell people, you have it so great now because you've got instant feedback looking at your phone now with digital. When I was learning, back in the old days, before digital, I had this camera with film, and you wound it up, and you're very selective on what you shot. And then you get it back and go, oh man, and so you think that something's going to look good, and it doesn't when you get it back, and you spent this money and time, and then it can be more discouraging because you're just not getting what you think you saw. Now we have the opportunity, get immediate feedback and tweak things, just become more aware of the distinctions, and you can tweak exposure. That's something that I teach later, is how to adjust the exposure on your camera so that areas aren't washed out. And when you look at Ansel Adams' pictures, you'll see that in general, that they are what we would consider underexposed. They're a little darker. And the reason for that is because it gives the tones a lot more richness and depth, and the textures come out even more strongly. And it becomes more of an art form when we do that in this way. So I don't mind at all, and I encourage people to learn post-production tools and learning levels to adjust the exposures, to adjust the contrast, the highlights, all of these different things that can help to, like Ansel Adams did, to help to get every area of the photograph to be exactly as you'd like it to be. Now, obviously, the picture has to have a lot of those components already in it. You're just refining to balance it out more and get everything to look, really, really nice.
Okay, perfect. So, and you mentioned, just in talking about lighting and angles, ordinary to extraordinary. So I want to and this is actually my last question for you, but just maybe in 3 or 4 minutes. So, and I hope I'm giving you enough time to give a response to this question. But so,
I'll laser.
How do you recognize what transforms a shot from the ordinary to the extraordinary?
Okay. Well, first, again, the lighting has to be there. It's like all these elements just need to come into play. The clay, if you're doing a landscape, seeing these clouds that are coming over, and being able to see that the lighting in everything that you're looking at is going to all be complementary when you take the picture and get everything. So part of it is just waiting. Ansel Adams would wait, sometimes days, weeks. We don't do that any longer, but he would wait to get, because he had in his mind, okay, I want the lighting to be here so that it gives a little shadowing coming over the mountaintops like this. So yeah, he was able to start making those distinctions and seeing. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, is the greater that we start to slow down our perception and start to look and make those distinctions in a greater way and trial and error, the more that we do that over and over again, we train ourselves to be more attuned in that way.
Beautiful. Wow. So this is really neat. I mean, I was bringing in earlier that conscious photography, perhaps is like an ascension product where we're in the 5D. But as you're talking this out, you're talking about all of, really self-evolution of all the things that we're doing actually to be where they're in the moment, intentional, and just opened up to all of these things that are going on, paying very thoughtful attention and consideration to so many different things, which we can only do in a fully conscious state, right?
Yes. Yeah. Being one with our environment, really.
Yeah.
Humanities team is all about oneness, and that's why we're drawn to each other, Steve.
Yeah.
Because that's where my attention and focus is with what I teach, is how to merge more with everything that we're around so that it's not separate from us. And the more that we do that, whoa, watch out.
Right. We are fully conscious. Boom. So, well, thank you, Carl. Thank you so much. Wow, incredibly thought-provoking. And I just want to share that we're going to send out a link to this webinar in the morning. So please keep an eye out in your email for the link because there may be things that you're going to want to. You might even want to take notes next time. You can watch this free webinar as many times as you like. So really catch details maybe that perhaps you've missed here now. So. Now, also, as I mentioned at the beginning of this program, that we have an exciting announcement that we'd like to make. It's about a collaboration with Carl that's been going on for about a year. Carl and Humanities team have created this all new, it's a 6-week master's program, and we're going to actually unveil it now for the very first time. So I don't have a drum, so I can't do a real drum roll, but let's mention a drum roll. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Carl. Thank you. So this is called Zen and the Art of Smartphone Photography. Discover how to use your phone's camera to create truly inspiring images and create more and connect more deeply with yourself and the world around you, which is really what Carl and I have been talking about here. I'm going to show that again. Zen and the Art of Smartphone Photography. Discover how to use your phone's camera to create truly inspiring images and connect more deeply with yourself and the world around you. And I just want to share this as we get going too, just to give you a little bit of a preview to all the way to the end when we go over everything that's in this program, the 6-week program and its pricing that I don't think you'll believe all of what we're putting into this 6-week program with the bonuses and things. And also, I don't think you're going to believe the pricing. As you know, we're a nonprofit. And we're all about creating this planetary awakening. So we create very affordable pricing so as many people around the world can be involved as possible. In this case, it's half the already reduced pricing that we offer. So it's an amazing program that we're unveiling. And when we look at all of what's in it and the pricing, candidly, is jaw-dropping. Okay, so just stay with us. We're only going to spend about 15 minutes here going through the program. I'm going to now share screen so you can see the screen here. There we are. Carl's photograph at the top. So I already shared twice the name of the program, the 6-week program with Carl. And so Carl and I are just going to talk about this here for a little bit to give you a sense for what the program is, but I want to invite you to save this link because you're going to want to come back to the page. There's no way that Carl and I are going to do justice to all of what is packed in here on the program page. We're going to briefly review it, cover some of the highlights, but we want to invite you to come back and just really spend a moment with it and meditate on it and just see if it might be something for you. Now, we've talked about these people, that Carl has photographed, including the Beatles. You can see Paul McCartney over on the right, and then all of these leaders that are conscious leaders, starting with the Dalai Lama, Marianne Williamson, and many of these entertainers actually conscious too. Carl could probably share that story. Carl, one of the things you shared about Paul McCartney that maybe if you'd be open to sharing a little more, I think you said to me that he was the of all the people you photographed, he was easier in front of a camera, more more comfortable than anybody that you'd ever photographed. Do I have that right?
Yeah, yeah. Not just in front of a still camera, but in front of a video camera. I mean, because I was on set while he was shooting for his off-the-ground video at Industrial Light and Magic, I was watching how he was, even when he's working. And he'd be whistling, going and doing a duet with one of the crew members. And what I particularly shared with you, Steve, was that when I would be taking candids of him at times, when he'd be talking with somebody else, not looking at me, but clearly he could see me, you know, in his peripheral, he had zero self-consciousness, zero care about poising himself in a certain way. You know, most people, in fact, I've never known anyone other than him and perhaps the Dalai Lama that have had no self-consciousness whatsoever about that. You know, because most of us, if we know that someone's taking a picture of us, we might be more aware of our posture or, you know, thinking about how's my hair, you know, whatever. None of that. He just go on being himself and really could care less. It's just like, yeah, so there's a camera there. Part of it had to do with his consciousness. Part of it had to do with that he was one of the most photographed people in the world, and he's just worked through it. But it was very inspiring in that way.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that story, Carl. Okay. So we're going to just, we're going to scan this page here. I'm going to just, again, we're just going to add highlights. So I invite you to come back. But so let a master photographer teach you the professional tips and tricks for taking powerful connective photos that will move people to make them want to see more. Smartphone photography has become the leading art form in the world. Exponentially more people now view and share these artistic expressions on Facebook, Instagram, Pocketbook, and other platforms than visit actual art galleries and museums any day of the week. I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all. It's a fact. It's a wonderful thing. And then this is the last thing I'll share from here, that where Carl says the problem actually is that most of the photos aren't anywhere near as good or artistic as they could be, because most people don't know the professional secrets that will take the smartphone form photos to the next level, inspire more attention and appreciation from their families, friends, and colleagues. And you might want to say a word about that, Carl.
Yeah, it's, as I was talking about earlier, it's an opportunity to enhance our way of seeing and learn certain technical tips so that we really can, when we're taking the picture and then also in post-production, really have a shot pop off the page and just have people really be moved by your pictures. Because for me, that's what means the most to me. It's not the amount of likes that I get. It's oftentimes the comments when people just say how moved that they are, and it evokes a certain feeling in them that basically brings more light and more preciousness to their life.
Yeah, and boy, I can honestly say I have never in my life seen photos like the ones that you take, Carl, and it's always special when we're together. And the new pictures of me for Humanities team, of course, you took those as well to just really bring out the fully conscious me, not just the me that has a nice smile on my face. And thank you for that. Okay, we're going to scan the highlights here. Again, you can come back. I'm not going to read any more of the site, but all of the things that are a part of this 6-week program. There are, so there are 12 modules here that we spent about a year creating this, and with there are 12 modules. There's a lot more. There actually are 3 1-hour live mentoring programs with Carl as well. We'll get to that and some other things that are part of this program. But first, let's just hit real quick the 12 modules. So the first one, taking pictures with intention. Okay, and we talked about that. How to develop an eye for the shot, and we talked a little bit about that. As Carl shared when he was responding, there's so much here that's rich, and Carl's just kind of hitting the surface during this program. And we asked him to just really go down as deep as he could in each of these segments to really bring out the fullness of what it's like to be a photographer who's invited to take pictures of these leaders all over the world, and that were in entertainment in his earlier years, rock in many cases, and now that are conscious leaders like the Dalai Lama and many others. So module 3, photography is a meditation for oneness. Maybe we can stop. Do you want to just share for 30 seconds or a minute on this one, Carl? Because that's intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's great that you guys chose that picture of George Harrison for this module, because he, as I mentioned, was such a key component for me in deepening in my meditative practice and in my spiritual development. And so the opportunity, I spent beautiful time with George, and I talk about that during this segment, so I'm not going to talk about it now. But he gives, George was very devoted to meditation, so he was a strong influence on me. And the time that I started getting into photography was around the time I started meditating. So I didn't really realize until much later in life that I was really blending the two together. And how do we do that? How do we pick up a camera and have it be a meditative practice for us in slowing down, in seeing the stillness, seeing the beauty, seeing those distinctions around us, and having everything just be right in this moment and giving it your full attention. And that is a meditation.
Yes, it is. So, and then module 4, mastering social media considerations, which again is such a huge, was part of our impetus for this project together with Carl. One, that photography is moving to the smartphone, because it's just, we can carry a smartphone around, and we love our Canon, and these other devices, but they're just, it's a little tougher to bring them along on a half day or full day journey. And 2 is are that we're taking selfies and things. It's just it's conscious photography is coming more and more and more into our lives. As Carl mentions, that hyperbolic curve where now half the planet, he was saying 3 point something billion, have a smartphone. It's just amazing. So module 5 then, how to use your smartphone camera to get the best pictures. By the way, just on social media, Carl, because you put the most amazing pictures up on social media. Do you want to say a word about this?
Yeah, I've been posting more progressively over the years, and especially in this last year, because I feel more inspired. And again, and it helps that I've got a huge catalog library of pictures that I've been very proud of, that I've taken over the years. And especially in the last 15 years, as I've been shooting digitally, there's a lot more shots that I've been taking because the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's the easier access. So being able, again, seeing it as a beautiful opportunity in social media to share the purpose, your intention, share whatever qualities you feel are making the contribution that you have to offer in your pictures. Whatever they are, that's going to give value to people.
All right, and let me share this picture here is on, I recognize it's on Carl's property. That might be him driving, or his wife Cynthia. And those are elk. So he lives out on Eagle's Nest up in Colorado, about an hour from me. Boy, it's stunning up there. And isn't that a beautiful place to live?
Yeah, the elk are always roaming around, the deer. We have a little sanctuary all around us. And that was actually my neighbor who keeps her horse at our place, and she was coming up the road, and I happened to be looking out the window from our place, went, there's a moment. Wow. I ran and got my camera and shot that. Yeah.
No kidding. Okay, how to use your smartphone camera to get the best pictures. Sticking with your vision to get the results of what you want to see. Sharing your light with the world, being a luminescent artist. Do you want to just say a word about this, Carl? Because this is so, and that picture sort of really captures that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you guys used that picture. That's of Eldridge Cleaver that I shot in the late 80s. And I love this shot because to me, it is luminescent. And it embodies a feeling tone of the sacred, of tenderness, of inwardness, of joy, of peacefulness. So again, those are some of my key qualities as being a luminescent artist. And the reason we use the word luminescent artist is because as an artist, and I believe we're all artists, that we all have the ability to awaken within ourselves the artist eye in a deeper way. And the more that we do that, we open to the light within and without us, and then we start seeing and embodying the sacred, the light, in a more sensitive way, in a more inspired way, and our pictures can really reflect that.
Boy, amen, brother, to that. So, Carl, let me ask you the the question maybe that we're all sitting here with, is the viewers would be sitting here with, which is, so clearly you've become that, okay? Now, but me, the viewer, as I'm looking at this, can I really do that? Can I become a luminescent artist? Is it possible? Can you help me get there?
Mm-hmm. There's no question about it. Now your pictures aren't necessarily going to look like this one of Eldridge Cleaver, because this is lit in a studio. I mean, everything about it was from my inner vision. I had an inner vision for a look and a feeling in the background, the way it's lit in the background, the lighting, the shadowing on him. But all of it was evoked from this inner vision and a feeling tone of what do I wish to evoke. And the more that you deepen, and we go deeper in that in this series, the more that you are able to listen and attune in that way, then you start making these distinctions. So the light, it might not be that kind of lighting, and you don't need that kind of lighting to bring out the essence, to bring out the joy, whatever those qualities are in somebody else or in what you're seeing around you. And we go into depth on how to open that, even at your third eye, how to open that in a deeper way.
Yeah, so cool. So you, to somebody that was shy,
Mm-hmm.
To somebody that's very introverted, to somebody that's just doing basic, asking people to smile in front of a camera, what would you say to that person here in regards to becoming an artist with their smartphone?
Well, if you're shy and you're working with someone else, that's really the time I would make a suggestion. I mean, you can be shy and introverted and take amazing shots if you're not dealing with other people. Yeah, but I'll focus on when you're with someone else. And what I've learned is that we want to honor where we're at. So if we're feeling shy or introverted, how is it that we would want to be treated? How would we want someone to be with us, to have us feel more comfortable, more at ease, more present in ourselves, more relaxed and safe, so that we can, say, take a luminescent picture of them? So tapping into that and then embodying that. And for you, it might be, for me, it can be being playful with people, but sometimes it can just be listening and attuning to the person's needs and where they're at. Some people, it's just slowing down and just telling them how beautiful they are. Telling them how, how much that you appreciate certain qualities about them. And, you can just breathe, coaching them to breathe more, just to be still, to open. Just things that feel organic to you, that don't feel like a stretch, but feel like an opportunity for you to be with someone in a beautiful and honoring and sacred way.
Boy, that is so beautiful, Carl. Where, in a couple of different ways as you're sharing. One, because I can imagine how I could take a picture maybe like this, maybe not quite as good, but capturing, the person's light. But as well, all the things you're talking about actually are where we're honoring of people like that, honoring of the sacred, being with people and nature like that. That's being fully conscious. You're talking about being fully conscious. You're talking about a planetary awakening that's occurring within us.
That's right.
But making it fun, honoring and fun.
Mm-hmm. And fun and creative.
Yeah, so Module 8, lighting techniques. Module 9. And by the way, Carl and I are going to come on live here in just a moment. I mentioned that at the beginning. We've got this program here, but we're going to come over to the other side of the camera here in just a moment to answer your live questions. So hang around and we'll get to any questions that you might have. Module 9, conscious selfies, redefining self-consciousness while being photographed. Module 10, how to use post-production graphic software to enhance your photos. And we don't have time to talk about this, but so this is where, and Carl did this with me, where after a photo shoot, where we're using free tools to go in and modify in honoring ways, not ways that are facade, the photographs that were just taken. Module 11, being authentic versus conditioned patterns and responses. And then Module 12, artistry and creativity, seeing and revealing the sacred. So this program, this 6-week program starts with this. In the first 2 weeks, we send out 2 of the modules the first week, 2 more modules the second week. And then when we come into the third week, we continue to send out 2 modules a week for the 6 weeks. Or if you want to jump ahead and go through all of them, you can do that as well. Now, we're going to go to the bonuses. Before we go to the bonuses, I want to just say that one of the really amazing things about this 6-week program is there are 3 1-hour live mentoring programs with Carl, where we're coming on camera. So right now we're using Zoom webinar where you can just see Carl and me. But in the mentoring programs, we're on Zoom program. So Carl can see you, you can see him. Where you come on camera, you can actually also leave questions for him. But where you come on camera and you can talk about the questions you have, the statements that you want to make relating to this program that help you really come into the fullness of this illuminescent artistry. So, and that's huge. Again, I want to mention Carl charges $2,000 for a half day with clients, $4,000 for a full day with clients. This program, I'm going to jump ahead, this is $149. A 6-week program, 12 modules, 3 live 60-minute mentoring programs, and a whole bunch of bonuses we're going to go through. The whole program is $149. So it's an amazing opportunity to get to spend all of this quality time with Carl in a very affordable way. Okay, so bonuses now. If you order this program, we always have this event-only bonus. So by midnight tomorrow night, the 28th, midnight tomorrow night, if you order this by midnight tomorrow night, you get Carl's book in a PDF. It's called Click, Choosing Love One Frame at a Time. And I've got this book. I'm reading it now. It's an amazing book that brings in lots of just incredible content about becoming conscious and using our camera, our smartphone as a conscious device. So you don't want to miss that. I invite you to come spend some time on this page before midnight tomorrow night, so you can be sure to get this bonus if this is a program that you'd like to go through. And then you'll be seeing Carl and I here in early September as this program begins. Now there's also a early registration bonus we always have. So that's by Wednesday, September 4th at midnight. And there are these 4 videos that you'll receive. We want to make sure you get this bonus too, where you order the program by midnight, Wednesday, September 4th. And the first video is called Why Do We Take Photos? The Value of Photography in Our Lives and in the World. The second bonus is called What Catches Your Eye? Why You Are Drawn to Certain Images More Than Others. Video 3, The Deeper Dance Between Light and Shadow. And then video 4, Making Photography a Grand Adventure. So, and this bonus alone has 147 values. So isn't this cool? You know, this one bonus with these 4 videos, 140 valued at 147, and this whole program is 149. 12 modules, 3 60-minute live programs with Carl, his PDF of his book, and then these 4 videos. So really pretty cool. Here you can see it all together. Now, what's interesting when we put these values together to create this total value, notice the bonuses aren't even in here. So the 12 video modules, the 11 MP3 audios, the 3 live group mentoring programs, and then we have a private Facebook community as well, values up to a pretty high number. And here now you can order this program for 149. So we're real excited about it. We feel like it's an incredible gift to you and to your home and to becoming a conscious person, and then just having a whole lot of fun bringing conscious photography to your home and your social media. So we are, I think, are about out of time here. Carl and I are going to come over to answer your live questions now. But Carl, do you want to share anything quickly here before we come over to be with everybody?
I do. Yeah, as you're scrolling through this, Steve, I am just in such a sense of gratitude for the opportunity to put this together with you and Humanity's team, because I've never shared this comprehensively before, all the learnings and the gifts that I have received in this amazing adventure that I've been on with photography. So it just wells my heart to be able to offer this. And, you know, I hope to see all of you in this 12 module series, because it really goes into depth. And I'm so proud of what we put together here.
Me too, Carl. Yeah, thank you. Such a just gift to be partnered with you on this venture. And this has a 2-pay option, by the way, as well, if you are interested in that. And of course, it always has the 2-week full money back guarantee as well. So Carl and I are going to come over now to spend 30 minutes live with you. Thanks for being with us here during this program. Carl, thank you. What an illuminating 60 minutes it has been.
Woo! Thank you, Steve. Thank you, all of Humanities team, and thank all of you for watching and being with us.
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, and also to our producers here, Garth Catterall and Tim Noah. Thank you. So we're coming over now to be with you live.